great to see you, Karla. Welcome indeed to the third podcast we are doing with my
thank
body
you.
the guitar.
Great to see you,
How's things in sunny Florida?
Things in sunny Florida are sunny, but it's very, very chilly. So we're not used to this, but the heat will come back starting tomorrow.
Good to hear that. So this session's all about Edward Van Halen, or the band Van Halen, I should say as well. So what are your thoughts on Van Halen, Karla?
Well, before I read the poem, I missed such a chunk of time, I guess, in music history that I totally missed Van Halen. And it wasn't until last fall when he passed away that I thought, and I saw these comments, scrolling through Facebook and everybody being so devastated. And I said, oh my, I guess I better find out about this Van Halen guy, and you sent me a marvelous YouTube video of an interview with him, fairly recent. He was gray and grizzled, and looking back over, over his career. So that was a perfect orientation to get me started with my research. And listening and catching up on this phenom named Eddie Van Halen. So it was quite a trip.
Well, he's with us forever because he's in the DNA of the guitar. So I love the title, Karla. Can you tell us about the title for this poem?
Okay, the title of the poem is 15 Haiku in Memoriam Eddie Van Halen. So it was definitely intended as a posthumous tribute to his contribution to guitar world. And I had no idea going into this poem what it was going to be. So the title actually came last. The intention for a memoriam was there, but I woke up one morning and I was, that beta land between waking and sleep, and sometimes dreams are just starting to disappear, and you're kind of susceptible to errant thoughts. And I laid there in bed, and the refrain came to me. So I popped out of bed and I jotted it down, and I looked at it and I said, and I counted the syllables. Okay, and I said, oh my goodness, it's a haiku. Who'd have thunk it? And from there, with the refrain, I said, well, I'm just going to do the whole tribute poem to him in haiku, which is, I think, kind of a big contrast to his style, because it is so taut and precise and contained, very contained, where he could just go mad with his playing. So, but that's the poem. That's what the poem said it wanted to be, to try and distill his magic into these taut little stanzas of what ended up being 15 haiku with the repeated refrain there. So. Curious experience.
Well, we'd love to hear it, Karla.
Okay, let me give this a shot. 15 Haiku in Memoriam Eddie Van Halen. And it opens with an epigraph that reads, the wetter, the better. We'll do it till we're black and blue. And that's from Van Halen's song, Black and Blue. And here's the poem. Fizzy jizzy riffs and fizzy jizzy licks, hot fizzy jizzy hits. Once upon a time, eternal now of a new musical kingdom. Fizzy jizzy riffs and fizzy jizzy licks, hot fizzy jizzy hits. Incendiary, jazzling, fretboard fingering, wailing vibrato. fizzy, jizzy riffs and fizzy, jizzy licks, hot, fizzy, jizzy hits, spellbinding technique, two-tapping like a Godzilla beast, Frankenstratting, fizzy, jizzy riffs and fizzy, jizzy licks, hot, fizzy, jizzy hits. It's bicycle paint, it's masking tape, surfboard wax on its three pickups. Fizzy, jizzy riffs, fizzy, jizzy licks, hot, fizzy, jizzy hits. Like a dive-bombing plane, pack of wild hyenas shredding panache. Fizzy, jizzy riffs and fizzy, jizzy licks, hot, fizzy, jizzy hits. DNA of rock guitar rearranged henceforth and forever. You, the prince did appear, told me, play until you die, your old sex machine. This poem, your riff, this line, your licks all over this body you've hit. It's all riffs and licks and hit after hit to this pyrotechnic spot.
What a beautiful poem. Hits it right on the head, actually, I think, because Van Halen, for me, was an enormous influence as a guitar player. He was doing things that people had done before, but not in the same way. And the refrain you've got there is just brilliant, because it just sums them up. Such a sexy band as well. I mean, that David Lee Roth, the Van Halen brothers, Michael Anthony, then Sammy Hagar later on, and Gary Sharon later on. A really physical band, and changed the way people performed. And I was going to ask you about the second kind of verses: incendiary, dazzling, fretboard fingering, and wailing vibrato. That sums them up perfectly, Karla. That.
Thank you. As I've said before in this series, often, the creation of a poem is distilling something down to its essence, and I don't think there's anything more bare essence than working in a haiku, one of the smallest poetic forms there is. I mean, there are others that are shorter, but and it's widely known. It's come across well from the Japanese tradition, which doesn't even have syllables like we do, but we've adapted in the English language over many years our own approach to doing what is basically our version of a traditional haiku, and to get that incredible energy of his, and the long riffs and licks, that to get them down to this absolute positive essence was part of the fun, and certainly the challenge. So if you had incendiary, I mean, he was just a fireball of a performer. And he dazzled. I mean, you watch his fingers in concerts, which I've only been able to, of course, see on YouTube, and his fingers are indeed dazzling. And there's that whole idea of flame and incendiary and dazzling, like this supernova of a performance where he just, every performance he just explodes. So that's kind of what I was getting toward, and trying to reduce, one man's style to 17 syllables in that one little stanza. So yeah,
it's beautiful the way that you put that, though, Karla. Because I'll just demonstrate. I mean, he was an utter genius and an incredible guitar player. But what he did was, he didn't really. He did a lot of new things, but what he did, he was very influenced by Eric Clapton, and also as a child in Holland, grew up in Holland. He played piano, studied piano. So this is why his hands, he could do these things on the guitar, which all that type of thing. And not only that, he would make it very musical. So when dazzling fretboard fingering, it was. I mean, Van Halen 1 came out in 1978, and I've just dropped my plectrum. Sorry a second.
Okay. Those pesky plectrums, what we call picks, they end up all over the place.
They'll find them on Mars.
Yes.
And 1978, the Van Halen 1 came out, and of course, it was very much discovered by Gene Simmons from Kiss, who heard this guitar, and of course, 1977, I think Gene Simmons heard them, I think, and there was nobody playing like this ever. He'd taken a Fender Stratocaster, which is this isn't a Fender Stratocaster, and he just bolted a humbucker pickup here, and that was it. So he had one pickup and one volume dial, and he got all these colours out of the guitar. And his amplifier was also modded heavily to make it. I think they lowered the voltage on it. There is a great Rick Beato video on this where they lower the voltage of an amplifier to try to get that sound. But he really would get from just the. So I'm just going to use this one pickup today and just kind of show some of the things that he would do with the tremolo arm. All this type of, he would. He would just go for it all the time. I hope that's not. I'd never heard this on a guitar. It's crazy, and I think he was also influenced musically by science fiction. I think a lot, because this is Hendrix as well with the science fiction of using the tremolo arm in a. And the way you wrote the poem, I thought was really reminiscent of particularly the first album, because on the first album, David Lee Roth sings, and then Eddie Van Halen fills every gap with the most incredible outpouring of energy that I've ever heard in my life, and there was nothing like this at the time. The third verse I hope I'm saying the right terms. The third verse in the poem, spellbinding technique. Two-tapping like a Godzilla beast, Frankenstratin. What a great line that is, Frankenstratin.
Well,
let's talk about that a second, Karla.
Here's Eddie. I mean, okay, half clothed, mind you. All right, so you're already, in the mood. And there's his Frankenstrat, or the first of what became a couple of them. So, I mean, you think about, what he took this, this common, very popular model of guitar and really made it his own. And there was no mistaking. I mean, besides the physical appearance, which I get at with the bicycle paint and the masking tape and everything. I mean, he just altered it in such a way that there's never been any other Strat, or two of them actually, like this. So,
well, it certainly changed. The guitar landscape changed forever. I mean, that there is kind of post Van Halen, pre Van Halen, because once he came on the scene, he changed everybody. And anyone learning he raised the bar from kind of here to just above the moon. Technically, he was, and it's not just technically songwriting. He's a great songwriter, a great riff writer, and a really brilliant musician. And the fact that he's got such a great link with his brother, the bass and the drums together, it's almost unparalleled, the interplay between them. And the Frankenstrat, what it did was it was by its definition was a different guitar sound, because guitars were really in rock, Les Pauls or Stratocasters. So for anyone who's not is not familiar with the two, this pickup here, this here, this black box. This is a humbucker. This has got 2 single coil pickups together, so this kind of is quite powerful. Yeah. Here's what I turn it on. Now, on this guitar, I can turn this pickup selector, and this brings in the other pickups. These thinner black boxes here. These are single coil pickups, which are a lot not as powerful.
Oh, big difference.
You hear the difference?
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's just, and with Van Halen, there was the 2-handed tapping. He didn't invent it. But to tell you how musical he was and how good he was, I I'm quite a fan, is that he learned classical piano as a kid. Started in Holland, and he came over to America, to Los Angeles, with his father and with his family, and he would he didn't read music, yet he was playing Mozart and Chopin and winning piano competitions. So what he was doing, he couldn't be bothered to read music. Basically, this is what he said. He didn't want to do it. So he would actually learn he would learn these tunes by ear, these pieces by ear, which for somebody of any age, particularly that age, I think is pretty much superhuman, really, because he's playing and winning, playing Mozart and piano is a very difficult instrument to play, I think. So this is where the 2-handed tapping thing came in, because it was very natural for him to play piano with.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And he wasn't just tapping 2 notes together. What he was doing, he was using contrary motion. So one hand goes one way and the other hand goes the other way in pitch. So you get he really blew the doors off, actually, with in terms of not just how good he was, but in terms of we go back to this thing of him enabling people to really. It's like the 4-minute mile for me. Roger Bannister brought the 4-minute mile. No one ever thought it could be done, and then 3 weeks later somebody else did it. So when we talk about after Van Halen, Steve Vai, Joe Satriani, all these great players, really he is so influential in really raising every aspect of guitar. Raised the bar in everything, songwriting, and of course we'll come to it. This next verse, Karla, I love the way you've done this, about his guitar with the bicycle paint, the masking tape, surfboard wax, and its 3 pickups. So could you talk about that, because that's brilliant.
Oh, it was just something I read about the construction of the Frankencaster, and there's quite a long passage in the biography I read, and it it was kind of a mad scientist approach to creating a guitar that is all yours, and the masking tape and the paint is fairly visual elements, but the idea of taking surfboard wax to your pickups, I mean, where did that come from? And what was he trying to achieve? But I'm not going to try it on my Stratocaster, believe me. But you can imagine, this mad scientist's mind was doing. Saying, well, of course it was California, so there was surfboard wax around, and what if I rub this wax over my pickups? What will that do? And apparently he thought it did something really significant, that just that when you think how gummy wax is on something that's metallic and smooth and a precise engineered piece of equipment, a pickup is, it did something in his ear that he could hear that altered the sound of the pickup and its function enough to embellish a new layer to the music he was writing and playing. It's just, who would have thunk it?
He is incredible, and I think he put it in wax. I think because he was trying to stop feedback because pickups are kind of dipped in wax, as I understand it.
Oh,
I'm doing
okay.
this for
I did
wax.
not
I don't know
know
why,
that.
but so what he did was because he bolted his pickup. This is another aspect to how great he was because he was making innovations that would change the guitar world forever. Because pickups, these black boxes for anyone watching that's not quite sure about it. He bolted his pickup straight onto the body of the guitar, which is very rare. I don't think anyone had done that before. So what he was doing was he was getting the sound of the direct sound of the wood and all the vibrations coming through the pickup, rather than it's mounted on this white. This is a scratch plate on this white scratch plate, so it's mounted, and the pickup doesn't actually screw into the body of the guitar. It's actually on this plate here. So he did that, and I think he put the wax on to stop it feeding back, because also another aspect of his sound, and I'm going to come to this in the next verse, about dive bombing a plain pack of wild hyenas, a shredding panache. I mean, that sums him up perfectly. First of all, dive bombing is get the tremolo arm here. I mean, again, he didn't invent this, but he just made it so musical. And what you do is you hit the thickest, lowest string in pitch, and literally. And he'd normally do it at the end of he just kind of. It really speaks. An aspect of that is that Jimi Hendrix found this out to his cost. Is that when you use it, what happens with it is this is a tremolo bar here. So I push this down. This raises the bridge, and you can't see it because it's covered, but there's springs in the back of the guitar, so it stretches the strings. Excuse me. So Jimi Hendrix would use this a lot, the tremolo arm, and it changes the pitch of the string. However, sometimes it doesn't actually go back in tune. So if you're in the middle of a song, this is before digital tuners, so you think, oh my God, it's out of tune. And so this is why sometimes it went awry. But another aspect of this is a direct influence Van Halen had on the guitar world, is that he developed what's called a lock-in tremolo system with, and this enabled him to dive bomb all day long without ever going out of tune. With a couple of companies, Karla, and actually Kahler, and Floyd Rose was another company that did this. So what happens is that there is a metal plate here that locks the strings down and locks the strings here, and so you don't actually use the tuning machine heads. You actually tune down by the bridge like a violin would, so the fine tuners. So that means you could make all these otherworldly sounds by actually clamping the guitar down and the strings down, so that if you broke a string, then you got to get another spare guitar quick, because the whole thing will go out of tune, because the bridge was actually floating. My bridge is flat to the body, but the bridge was actually floating, so you could raise the pitch up or down with the tremolo arm, and he just changed everything. I mean, a pack of hyenas, this type of sound. Almost sounds like. There's loads of, and so what he did really was he almost put the guitar in 5.1 surround Blu-ray as his system in 1978, because all of a sudden through using the distortion, he brought into focus so many other aspects of music by using the guitar with distortion. So before him, let me get this. Before him, you got the kind of that's with distortion. Just to demonstrate, without any distortion, kind of sounds clean like that. But by first overdrive the amplifier and then later with pedals, so you get that type of sound. But what Eddie did was with the tech, they widened his amp so that the voltage would be lower and he could drive it more, and with a distortion pedal as well. you go to this. So you get a lot of sustain, and it's really actually one of the aspects of people say, oh, it's just loud guitar. It's actually really hard to play loud guitar well, because you can imagine, everything vibrates, and it's really quite difficult. You're even doing this through a 100-watt Marshall amplifier. Actually, it's so you've got to be very careful the way you play that type of thing. Shredding panache. One thing he did do was, again, he didn't invent this, but it's a technique called tremolo, which goes back to violinists and things like that, where he would just he'd go up one string, and he'd have kind of a note in mind at the top, and so the tension that he would create getting up there was and he has such a great vibrato as well. Big influence of Eric Clapton was a huge influence on him. And
you can hear it.
I think he wanted this. Yeah, you certainly can, and it's not just he's not just an influence in musically, but in thinking in terms of what Eric Clapton did is with the Blues Breakers, when he got his Marshall amplifier, Eric Clapton, and he just changed the sound of he had this new sound in 1966. That kind of pushed Van Halen to think, I can do that, so he could play that fairly at a young age, and then he just wanted to take it further. There was a guy also actually from Yorkshire called Alan Holdsworth. Now, Alan Holdsworth died last year, actually, but he was a Jedi. I can only describe him as a Jedi musician, and he was a huge influence on Van Halen. What he would do is he would play these improvising lines, which, again, I can't really do any. That type of thing, and only a gazillion times better. And what it sounds like, he's got two hands on the guitar because he had these enormous hands and playing these incredibly complex music. And Van Halen heard this, and I think that was another catalyst for him developing the two-handed technique. So there's so many aspects of this poem that I just love the way you've uncovered so much of his the next one, the DNA of rock, guitar reimagined henceforth and forever you. Could you just talk about that verse, Karla? Because it's so beautiful.
I think that actually that came from you, Paul. The day, I think, if I recall correctly, you had one of your Zoom History of Guitar Tuesdays, which was the day that Eddie passed away, and the group in the Zoom room were discussing his passage, and I'm pretty sure that that's almost a direct a direct quote from you, that he really he is in the DNA of all guitarists that came after him, and he really rearranged our way of thinking about the guitar as an instrument, and ways to play it and make it express things that we had heretofore not heard before. I mean, Clapton had his thing, and certainly Jimi Hendrix, but and then Eddie walks into the picture and just, takes it into the stratosphere with his approaches. I mean, including, and I hadn't been aware of that till today, the being able to change the amp on his guitar so that more distortion could get through. So, I mean, he just, he changed the world of guitars ever after. And he, even if you're like me, and I mean, I play mostly some rock and a lot of folk, but he's still sitting on my shoulder when I play, even if I have no aspiration to be able to play anywhere near like he did. But he's there. And maybe I turn my reverb up a little louder on my amp when I'm on the Strat, and it's like, it's a tiny mini version of Van Halen. But he's there with me.
It pushed the limits of everything, not just in terms of music, but in terms of fashion. I think Van Halen were made for MTV was made for Van Halen, wasn't it? I think visually, David Lee Roth just looked incredible, and as they all did, and the songs were so strong. I think that's one aspect of it, is the amount of times I've heard, oh, Van Halen's all flash, is like, well, I personally, it's a free world, but I personally really disagree with that, because there's so much energy and honesty in his playing, and he was a real risk taker in many ways, I think. But musically, he would just go for it, and there would be no kind of, he would never really play that. I've heard lots of bootlegs, and he would never really play the same thing twice. And I think also another aspect that the poem says beautifully is the fact that he was playing rhythm guitar and lead guitar kind of at the same time. You know, and he was learning techniques like the two-handed tapping. I won't play it all because there's only one Eddie. But he did a tune called "Hot for Teacher" where he actually made this riff. That's the opener of the record, with his drums, with his brother playing a real tribal double bass drum pattern, and it's just the outflow of energy that he inspired people. I mean, if you want to have a good workout, then Van Halen is up there with any of them. The next the verse I wanted to ask you about, kind of the next one, is the prince did appear, told me, play until you die, you old sex machine.
Well, I think there's no.
That's a beautiful phrase.
I mean, I just heard him speaking to me, from beyond, channeling his energy, and he was talking to me, and he was reminding me, as he did, Karla, play until you die, your old sex machine. I mean, and this is a leitmotif through the whole book of My Body, the Guitar, that there is this whole thing about guitars being sex machines, and it recurs several places in the book. But when you think about when you're playing, and demonstrating the two tapping, for instance, it's so visceral, and the guitar is just, I don't know, it's just hot, and that music it not just rolls over you, but it really penetrates your whole body. So he was reminding me that, even me and my Strat, or me and my Martin, Karla, play them until you die. They're your sex machines, so don't lose it. Don't give up. Don't stop. And he didn't.
Well, you can. He certainly did, and of course, his legacy is passed down to his son Wolfgang, which he joined Van Halen playing bass. I mean, I don't think you could get a better role model than Eddie Van Halen, really, because he just went for it all the time. I mean, in terms of musical history, we're so lucky, I think, because we've actually got a lot of recordings of Van Halen. Because in terms of electric guitar, for me, he is the equivalent of hearing Liszt or Chopin on the electric guitar. He is the Paganini, or whatever label you want to put on it, because it's the outpouring of brilliance, and people really took he notched it up so far that people, I mean, there's bands called, there's a couple of guys pushing the envelope now, one with a band called Animals as Leaders, one guy, Tosin Abashi, who's amazing, and he plays a lot of this two-handed stuff, and it's beautiful, it's incredible music, but it's all coming from the Van Halen. If Rick Beato has a video called the Van Halen Effect, when he just raised the bar. Roger Bannister, 4-minute mile now. Not everyone, but a lot of people can run well under 4 minutes, and it's because he went for it and changed it. And not only that, with the decor of the guitar, I don't think anyone before him had done that with a guitar, because it wasn't his Stratocaster, his Frankenstrat wasn't even. Well, I say it wasn't even. It was kind of a mishmash of things.
Yeah,
it was a $200 guitar.
Yeah.
Which kind of demonstrates again the fact that we come to this quite a lot. This subject of that the guitar is just the tool. It's the like a pen or and anything that you would use to create art. It's just a tool, because if Eddie was to play any guitar, he would sound like him.
Right.
And he did a lot. He had also a lot of developments in. He had his own guitar company in the end, because he wanted something that was right for him.
Right.
And there's just one thing I was going to add to this kind of thing. It's really interesting. Is that he pushed amplifiers so far. He had his own amplifier, EVH 5150, after one of the songs, and to test the amplifier, they would have the amplifier full on for a month in a soundproof room, and they would come back a month later to see if it was still working.
Oh my!
So they
I've
would
never
turn
heard
everything
that.
up full. Yeah, so he really, in terms of everything musically and fashion-wise as well, ripped jeans in the 80s. David Lee Roth was one of the first people to I think, to do that type of thing. The whole thing, everybody wanted to be Van Halen, I think, really. And I think you just captured it so beautifully. I mean, obviously, all these subjects are totally. I love every artist that you're writing about. But Van Halen for me was just a game changer. Changed the world forever. I think you've captured this perfectly. I would love to.
Thank you.
Is there anything you'd like to add to that, Carla? Because I've been talking for a lot today, and you should talk
I
more than me,
know,
'cause
I
it was-
know. Well, and I mean, you can demonstrate first of all the techniques. I don't know. I think that it just every guitarist that I've examined and written about so far in this book has touched me differently, and for not being acquainted with Van Halen until, after he died, I mean, that put a different feel in the emotional part of the poem that is subtler here, because it's a very frontal poem. I mean, the refrain with the fizzy jizzy riffs, I mean, it's pretty frontal. But I realized that even though I never knew him during his lifetime, didn't mean I couldn't come to know him, couldn't be influenced by him. And his particular approach and style, the engineering genius that went into what he was doing with guitars and amps, and just he was the one who hit this pyrotechnic spot. It's like somewhere, like I don't know, my navel or something. I mean, it was just that electrifying that it came right in, and he hit that. What I imagined as this pyrotechnic spot, if you're contemplating your navel, and he really set it on fire in contemplating him. So it was a different experience that I tried to express, and I think the tiny stanzas in that intensity and the repetition of the refrain just for me got to it was like he put both my hands in sockets, and just lit me up, and I will never ever be able to play like that, and it's not even that I really want to, but to be able to appreciate that, even though I won't, he's still a part of, as he is with you and anybody, I think, who picks up the guitar post Van Halen. There's some ripple effect. I mean, he's out there in the universe still touching us, and every time we tune into one of his songs, or you just play a riff for this particular audience, and we're listening, he's alive again, and he's hitting that really hot spot that just explodes with fireworks. So that's my PS.
Just to add to that, Carla, I totally agree. I mean, I think there's a lot of great female rock guitar players. Well, a lot of great female guitar players, more than ever before. And I think for me, this is one of the Van Halen effect, is that a lot of parents would have had Van Halen records, and a lot of people. When they have kids, if they have kids, then the kids hear these records, and it's all personal taste, but after Van Halen, there was some bands. There was in the 90s. There was a kind of a reaction against all that pyrotechnical playing with grunge and things like that. But I think a lot of people picked up the guitar and would have been influenced by the fact that he looked so good. To me, they looked amazing, and it was if people play a piano, it's a great way to get into guitar by doing some of this two-handed stuff. And I think because he was kind of such a positive figure for people, and I think a lot of there's a guitar player, Anita Strauss, that plays with Alice Cooper, Orianthi. She plays with Michael Jackson as well. Jennifer Batten, who played with Michael Jackson. There's a lot of great female guitar players, and I think Van Halen kind of moved it out of that kind of strictly male kind of area that it was when it was in the early 70s
interesting.
with Led Zeppelin. I can't. Definitely. When you see people on YouTube now playing, he enabled a lot of people just to play and just enjoy music and not be kind of inhibited by you can't do that, because he broke every musical rule in the book for a brilliant reason. You know?
You can do anything you want. Give it a shot. So I mean, he may be the spirit that was behind me when I was writing that recent tonal poem about Big Ben, and I stumbled across that really bizarre chord. I mean, because even though I don't seek to emulate him. He like I said, I mean, he's like inside, giving me permission, which is what you're saying in a way. He really opened the doors for all those great female rock guitarists. I mean, it's liberating. He was liberating. Even if we don't get anywhere near what he was literally doing, I will, never, tap like that. But that sense of freedom to explore and invent and make a sound, a chord, or make my guitar. I'm not going to go putting bicycle paint on it, but that we can do things with our guitars we hadn't dreamed of before, if we want.
Definitely. I think that with the book being called My Body the Guitar, I saw them a couple of times live, Van Halen, and it was just a part of him. In fact, when he doesn't have the guitar on, he looks, the people like a lot of guitar players, they look quite awkward without a guitar, But he was it just enabled him to just move so many people in such a positive way. So, thank you so much, Karla. This is I'm loving this series. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Paul. Thank you, and thank you everybody who watches.
Really look forward to Well, thank you. And we definitely look forward to the next one very soon.
Okay. I'll see you again soon. You bet.
Thank you so much, Karla. All the very best to you. Right. Thank you.